So today we had a chance to do some pretty extensive hiking. So we hiked maybe 3 hours or so today. But on our hiking trip, we actually came across this right here. And sometimes these could be a little bit hard to find or rare depending on what your area is. But we were pretty lucky, we found quite a bit of it today. And this is either called Indian pipe or ghost pipe. And it goes by a couple other names also. Indian pipe is probably the most common name you're going to find if you try researching it. But if you look at it, it's a single stalk plant that has a single flower on the top of the stalk. So your Indian pipe plant here, a lot of times people will confuse it for a fungus or for a mushroom, and it's not. It's actually a perennial. So when you go to harvest this, keep in mind with it being a perennial, you can make this a renewable resource. So a lot of times when you find this, you might find just a couple by themselves, or you might find a large cluster of a dozen or 15 of them coming up. But when you find them, look around in that area, and a good chance you'll end up finding more of them. But when you go to harvest them, don't grab that whole cluster and cut them all down. Take a few of them from each different cluster and make sure that plant stays healthy and it can continue to grow and reproduce in the future.
We just seen a deer back there.
Is that what that was?
Yes.
I had to pause the video for a second there. Athena's recording for me, but there was a deer walking behind us, so we turned around to see if we could try to see it. I doubt it picked it up on the camera there, but kind of cool to have the deer walking behind us. So as far as when you pick this, make sure that you're not damaging that plant or ripping out that entire resource, so in the future you could go back to it and try to collect more. There's been a few different studies on how to use this. Some people are cutting off the upper stalk and flower to it and putting it in a tincture. Some people are saying that you could use just that root system underneath and make a tincture out of it. And there's also some studies of people just making a tea out of it and drinking it. So as far as the purposes of what to use your Indian pipe for, its biggest thing I would say is probably pain relief. You do have to be careful with this. This is a lot stronger than aspirin from like a willow tree. Now, you can also take this one for painkiller. So if you have like a real bad migraine, you could use some of this. And you could also use it as like a sedative. So if you have like restlessness or anxiety kind of issues, you could take it and it'll calm you down or help you sleep as well. But we're going to go ahead and take this. We're going to cut it up a little bit and we're going to make it into a tincture. Go ahead and take a closer look at this while we cut it up, and then you guys can get a real nice look at how this plant actually looks. Alright, so on these Indian pipes here, I want to try to keep it pretty clean. So instead of cutting it on the stump like I normally would, I'm actually going to put it on a paper plate and try to reduce any kind of dirt or other materials that might get in there. Now if you did get a little dirt or something, that ain't going to hurt you. So I'm going to cut this up a little bit for two reasons. One, it's going to fit in my mason jar a little bit better, and then also as I cut it, it's going to create more surface area. So this is another good reason why when you guys go on your hiking trips, your trekking, make sure you bring something. Bring your haversack with, bring your Ziplocs with, something, a container, something that you could put some of these things that you come across in a storage container. So this tincture is real easy. We're just going to cut this up. We're going to put it in the mason jar. Make sure you don't waste any of it, because depending on where you're at, this stuff can be a little hard to find. So then to make our tincture, now you could do this with the root like I was telling you, or we're going to do it with the top of the plant itself. But we're using a 40% by volume or 80 proof alcohol. We're using vodka for ours. Ideally, you probably want to use the 80 proof alcohol. Anything stronger than that or too weak isn't going to work out as well. If that's all you have, then that's what it is. But 80 proof is a really good one to use for this. Basically what we're looking for here as far as our volume of alcohol is just enough to completely submerge what you have in there. So this is floating actually a little bit, so that's more than enough. As far as the smell of it goes, you obviously have your vodka smell to it. But the flowers actually have a little bit of a aromatic kind of flower smell to it, which is pretty pleasant. So what we're going to do with this is just keep it in the jar. We'll mix it up every once in a while. But you're going to want to keep this in your jar for about 5 to 6 weeks. After 5 to 6 weeks, you could come through with some cheesecloth or whatever you want to use to strain it. And you want to strain this out and take all this plant material out and just save that liquid. Now with that liquid, you could use droplets and take a couple of drops for whatever purpose it is you're using it for. But as far as the volume of how many droplets to use, that's really going to be based on experience and how you react to it personally. And this is a very strong painkiller here. Some people even would compare it to like an opium level. So as far as gathering this and using this, that's on you guys. Make sure you use good judgment. Make sure you use a lot of literature and cross-reference your resources as far as making sure that you have the right item. So when you guys are out hiking and you're looking for this Indian pipe, a lot of times you will find this growing around other mushrooms. You'll find it growing around pine trees and some other various trees. And typically it grows between 5 and 8 inches tall. Sometimes those stalks might be straight up with the floret flower on top, and sometimes they're slightly curved, kind of like a bell shape. The inside of the flower has a slight pink hue to it, and obviously you guys seen the stalk was nice and white. And the reason it's white is because it doesn't produce its own chloroform. So it draws off that root system and other items of nature around it, the fungus and the different trees, and it actually pulls nutrients from those other items. But when you're looking for it, because it is white, it does kind of help it stand out and pop a little bit when you're looking for them. So typically when you do see them, when you guys are out trekking, it's pretty quick and easy to be able to identify and notice, man, that's what you got, what you came across. And just a reminder here, guys, this is one of the strongest painkillers you're going to find in the eastern woodlands. So use your own good judgment, make good choices. Whatever you decide to do is on you. But this is a great tool that you guys should know about, especially if you're going to be a homesteader or spend a lot of times out in the woodlands. We appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you next time.